So short. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome. Sorry for that craziness on getting my camera all fixed up. I'll make sure to delete that before I go to put it on YouTube. But welcome. If you don't know me, if you're new around here, I am Mandy Rice of teachonamission.com, and my little Teach on a Mission business, our mission really is helping teachers to build sustainable classrooms, which is totally not the status quo, right? So that they can stay there longer. Build sustainable classrooms so they can stay there longer. And my primary focus is on helping teachers build their own flipped classrooms and therefore accessible classrooms, right? Plus a couple of other things, but that's really kind of my main focus, especially now as so many teachers have essentially had to just be thrown into the fire, right? Like sink or swim when it comes to building an accessible and online classroom and exploring all of these things that is teaching outside of the four walls of your classroom, and what that looks like and kind of best strategies. And that's really what today is all about. So you're here today because you've either never taught online or you've never worked from home, right? At least not with all of your children there as well. And I'm pretty sure almost no one here can say that they've done that. Because you've been a classroom teacher. Of course you're not working from home, and you're certainly not working with your kids because they're either off at school or daycare with a sitter, whatever. And I want to give you some tangible tips and pointers today to make all of those roles that you've had, right? All of those roles, teacher, mom or dad, homeowner, pet owner, all of the things, right, have clashed in like a five-way intersection, head-on clashed together. And so today I want to give you more tangible tips and pointers on how to manage that well. I have been teaching for 10 years, and as I've taught for 10 years, most of that has been flipping and also some online settings. So I've done that kind of aspect, that piece of it before, but also I've been working from home all school year now since school let out last year. And so I want to offer up some strategies. And so that's probably why you're here, right? Just before I forget, I have made something for anybody and everybody who wants it. I printed it out just so I could show you here. But if you go to, and let me pull something up really quickly. If you go to, hang on one second. I want to show you visually just because it'll be better. So if you go to teachonamission.com/teach from home, what you see on the screen on my slide there is this printout that I have for you. It's more than 4 pages. Let's see. Well, I guess it's 4 pages front to back. Yeah, 4 pages front to back of tips to do both, of tips to teach online, but also work from home, and kind of what that balance looks like. Some things that I have found that have worked for me in an attempt to make at least the last 3 weeks, the future 3 weeks, and maybe even the rest of the school year a little bit more manageable for you, depending on what state you're coming from. So just because states are deciding differently, and at different points when they're going to be closing their doors, and that doesn't look the same for anybody right now. So that's kind of my intention there. So if you wanted to, you can go and grab that right now. You don't have to print it out, but you could. It's just like a PDF guide that I've made for teachers that kind of puts on paper what it is I'm going to talk about today. So if you're like, no, I'm just going to listen to you right now, that's fine. Because I'm not going to talk about everything in this, so later you might want to go and print it out, or at least download it and save it. But I will be talking about a lot of things straight from there. Okay, so quick story for you. This past Saturday, I kind of was planning out the week, and while my youngest, who is two, was napping, my husband and he helped me, but I grabbed my 2 older boys. They are 6, and my 4-year-old's going to be 5 this month. Oh, so crazy. I'm a mom of 3 boys, if you didn't know that. And I asked them to help me make a video, and I'm just looking at my notes so I don't mess this up. I asked them to help me make a video that shows what happens when they interrupt mommy while she's working. I said, all right, boys, you know how when mommy's sitting here, like this is my office, and I say, remember, you know how when I'm sitting here and you come in and I have to like stop my video and talk to you because you need something. You should have seen when I asked them this, hey, help mommy make a video doing this. You should have seen the little grins on their faces and how they immediately had all kinds of ideas of what they could do. Those little stinkers. We eventually made a super cute video and we put it out on Facebook. You actually may have seen it. It was used to demonstrate, and I said like at the bottom of the video, teaching from home be like. I'm sure you've seen those memes and stuff, but it was just a cute little video we made. But anywho, I share all of that right now to say that, one, I've been working from home this school year, and my kids know what it is to interrupt mom. I know what it is to be interrupted on a continuous basis. So I've been around the block a few times when it comes from working from home when your kids are home. And two, the second thing is that it's very doable to play both roles. And in fact, it's one of my utmost passions personally. I don't know if it would be professionally just yet, but personally, at least for me, right, is to manage both roles that I hold so dear in my heart and make them work together. And that is being a mom, but also working. And so that's just been kind of a personal journey of mine over the last 6.5 years that I've been a mom. And so I share that to say, if this is a hurdle for you, I hope that my journey that I've been on since I became a mother and have had kind of that weighing on my heart, I hope that you're able to benefit from that. And this is one of the ways, is through this PDF guide, through being here today for a quick 20 to 30 minute Facebook Live. And so I hope that that's helpful. Now, some of you might not have kids, right? You might be watching this and be like, girl, I just need you to help me. I just need you to help me teach online and work from home, because that's hard as it is. You're exactly right. It very much is, because you don't have like somewhere else to go to like eat your lunch and then come back and remain productive. Sorry. Okay, that's better. I'm just slamming into my desk. Which is actually another pointer that I didn't put in the PDF, is that if you, and this looks differently, if you have kids, you're not going to be working like 9 to 5 or 7 to 3, whatever that is. But if you don't have kids, or, your spouse is home and they're able to take the kids all day because that's what they normally do. And you can have like a generally normal working schedule, take a lunch away from your desk. That's absolutely imperative. Absolutely imperative. Okay, so grab the freebie, like that PDF guide first if you're able to. If not, just stick with me. Maybe want to jot some things down if you find those helpful. Okay, so first we're going to talk about, and let me see if I want to bring up my slides. I think I do. All right, let's get to here, and I'm really tall again in the frame. I am struggling with these cameras today, but that's okay. All right, so we are going to talk about teaching online first, okay? So teaching online first, and I don't know if you guys have seen this or if you have experienced it. I'm praying that you have not experienced this yet, but when you've used something like Loom, or not Loom, although Loom is a good tool. You've used something like, oh, dang it, I'm sorry. I am just having some issues today. Okay, I'm doing it. Okay, good. Zoom is what I meant to say, or Google Meet, or something like that. I have seen lately that teachers are having some real big issues with that. Ugh. And I don't know why I didn't see that coming. Of course they did, because that's what happens when it comes to like technology and like the things that we try to be innovative with as educators. And it happens in the classroom too. It's not just technology. But where trolls are like hacking into Zoom meetings, So frustrating. But then, like, even before we talk about hackers and kind of that, like, huge layer of awfulness, first is classroom management on Zoom or Google Meet. Right? I've seen so many teachers saying in various Facebook groups and different things where they're like, that was awful. And if I never have to do that again, I'll die a happy person. And I'm sorry that I'm laughing, but I can totally see how that would go so like hell in a handbasket quickly. And so I say all of that to say it's hard, but we're going to get back to that, but I want to back up for just a second. So Jenna, hey Jenna, welcome. I am using a software that is just for a Mac. And the only reason why I have it is because I go on Facebook Live often. I mean, I have been all week. I go into some of my private, like, paid teacher groups live on a regular, either monthly or weekly basis. And so I bought a software for Mac that allows me to do all this fanciness on Facebook Live. I don't think, and lots of people have been asking me that, I don't think that that's necessary for a teacher unless you're doing something outside of teaching your students that you're thinking of doing, like what I'm doing and supporting teachers. It's called Ecamm. But if you're wondering how you're seeing me in the little bubble right now, you can totally do that with any other video recording software. I do that with Camtasia. So Ecamm, which I'm using now on my Mac, allows me to do that in Facebook Live, and it just automatically makes that bubble. Camtasia is the software that I use. If you watch any of my YouTube videos that are not first Facebook Lives, like that I sit down and I record them, like my flipped videos for my flipped classroom, you'll see me in a little bubble or square. I use Camtasia to do that. So good question. I hope that answered it for you. Okay, so the first recommendation I'm going to make, and I'm going to talk about it quite a bit here for teaching online, is this. The difference between synchronous and asynchronous online teaching. Synchronous being you say to your students, we're going to meet at 3 p.m. today on Google Google Meet. Here's the link. Get there. Don't be late. And here's what we're going to do. And then asynchronous, I don't know why I'm telling you this, you are educated, very smart people, but anywho, let's just roll with it. Asynchronous being, here's a video I want you to watch, here's a website I want you to go to, here's a book I want you to read, and you do that on your own time. It is due next Friday, right? And that it's not at the same time with you in there, right? So you could very much say that synchronous is what you would do in the classroom, traditionally, right? Asynchronous would be sometimes what you do in the classroom, but it would be more like independent or group work, you could say. But it's definitely homework too, because the idea is I don't care when you do this, as long as it's done before you get to class tomorrow. Okay? But here's my here's kind of my teaching point, here's kind of my recommendation. Especially with all of the craziness that I've seen happening, and I pray that it hasn't happened to you, with our attempts to use Zoom and Google Meet and other platforms for synchronous teaching. Only use synchronous teaching for connection. Use asynchronous teaching for content. So what I mean there is, do not attempt to teach new things in a synchronous teaching method, platform, what have you. And some of you might be like, that's ridiculous. Of course I'm going to. And you totally could. It could be something small. Yes, like of course it could. But I'm saying don't let that be the primary one. I hope that makes sense. And so I'm going to talk about that here for just a little bit. Okay. So think of the foundational benefits of having your students in your classroom with you for just a hot second. Let's talk about that synchronous for connection one. So think about it, and if you want to, close your eyes. Like, what is it that is the most basic foundational benefits of your students being in the classroom with you? And if I had to bet, it's one of those you don't understand how great it is until it's taken away from you. You've done some time have spent some time thinking about this because you haven't seen your students physically in going on 3 weeks. Could you use that time to like teach and cover the content? Of course you could. But to me, that is where I think we're being forced to, and I would actually even venture so far as to say that it's necessary for us to have almost like a paradigm shift in education, or like a culture shift in education. That message that our synchronous time, our time together, our time in the classroom can only be used for the teacher to teach, cover, is wrong. Now, I shouldn't have said wrong there, but counterproductive to a bigger message we could be sending our students. And that message is this. That message is, you don't need me to teach you everything. Everything is available on the World Wide Web. Everything is available if you just ask Google or Alexa. I can't say her name too loud, right? So my job is to simply help put things in front of you, put experiences and information in front of you that I think will be helpful in your learning journey. Now, getting to where what has been kind of the status quo of the teacher being the expert in something, which of course you still can and should be, and can provide lots of great content and information for your students. I'm not negating the value in fantastic direct instruction at all. I'm just saying that if we're using our synchronous time to only like cover content and teach to our students, we're sending the wrong message, and one that's going to make this online teaching time not great and not very effective, because your role has shifted and you cannot teach your students everything by being available to them online. Some of them can't even get to it in the first place. But you also can't be that available to them all the time when your kids are home. Like, you just can't. So the message that we want to send to our students, and again, this is bigger than just one teacher, it's like a cultural paradigm shift in education, is that we want students to know that they can learn without you. And not that you want them to, you want to kind of join them and help them on that journey, but that they don't have to have you. And then in this time, that's an opportunity to build their confidence as well. So get creative on ways that you can build connection. And I would even add another C word there, build culture. Think of the culture that you had in your classroom. Anything and everything you did or do in your classroom builds the culture of that classroom, whether you are trying to or not. So if you have never done a lot of thinking around your classroom culture, I would encourage you to spend a little time there, because it's a beast, right? Of thinking of, well, what messages am I sending to my students, all that kind of like undertones of your classroom. But I say that to say, think of the culture of your classroom and try to maintain that in synchronous teaching or learning through Zoom or Google Meet. And get creative on ways that you can maintain that. So some ideas. You could have like a theme for a meeting, like dress as your favorite TV character or something like that, or wear a certain bright color. Like if you have teams, which you could totally still assign teams if you don't, have each team wear a certain color so they can visually see who's on their team on like a Google Meet with grid view. By the way, that's something that I recommend in the PDF, is that if you're using Google Meet, grab that grid view extension on Google Chrome. Huge, so helpful. But that's just kind of an idea of getting them excited to show up, because a lot of students aren't. I've had multiple teachers reach out to me about, oh my word, what do I do? I only have 60% of my students showing up regularly, which means I haven't even seen 40% of my students since school doors closed and we've got this test and so that might kind of entice them to show up if they know that it's not going to be like class necessarily. It's going to be an opportunity to see each other's faces and connect a bit. And for you to take the opportunity to say, okay, here's what we've got until we meet again. So, and let's say that you're only meeting with them 1 week, and that way you've got some maintenance items that you can say, look, I've emailed you, or I'm going to email you this, and this. And make sure you go to our Google site, because on here you're going to see this, and this, and here's what I want you to complete. You can even pull up slides that show them. Here is your homework. Take a screenshot real quick. And make sure that you know exactly what you need to have done before we meet, same time, same place, here next week. Okay, so that's kind of like some recommendations for synchronous and just kind of shifting our minds on what synchronous teaching should look like in the online world. Because really, classroom management is something that we don't even want to attempt to do online. When it comes to online teaching, managing our classrooms is almost incredibly out of our hands. And so you don't want your classroom, your synchronous time on Zoom or Google Meet to be your classroom, because therefore it's something you have to manage, and you cannot do that through Zoom or Google Meet. So get creative on what you do there. And then optimize that asynchronous time like a boss. Deliver your content there. And in that PDF, I give you lots of different things, like just a few bullet points. But this is the time where they have the video of you delivering the content or direct instruction, the material of the course. And there's so many benefits there. They can watch when they're able to, obviously. They can rewind and pause you as they need to without anyone knowing, meaning without any of their classmates knowing they didn't get something. They don't have to look over someone's shoulder like they do in the classroom. And it gives you time then during the synchronous teaching to clarify, clear up, and just kind of answer any questions. That's what synchronous would be for, as long as asynchronous is used to deliver the content. And it could also be used for checking understanding too. Now, here's a big point that I would like to make, is this. Synchronous time being used for connection, culture, clarifying and answering any questions, kind of building on knowledge, essentially. And then asynchronous time being used for delivering content, that is no different than the flipped classroom. That is the foundation of the flipped classroom. And so I say that not to say you have to flip your classroom. No, that is not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that to say that oftentimes in education we have these terms like standards-based grading and flipped classroom and flexible seating that you see are like trending, right? And a lot of us just do a giant eye roll because oh, there's the next silver bullet of education. Trust me, totally been there. I hear you, because it seems like there's something new all of the time. But I say that the foundation of, I'm telling you that about synchronous, asynchronous as being the foundation of a flipped classroom, so that you don't see the flipped classroom as one of those attempts at a silver bullet or just something that's trending. I've been saying this for about a year now to teachers that I've been working with, that I think education is changing. And if it's not, it's in trouble as it exists, because of the way that our world is changing. And I said that before COVID-19, before this pandemic. And I think this pandemic is just speeding it up at an exponential rate. And therefore, if we return to school, which, let's face it, if it's not in May, it's going to be August. I don't think it's going to be May. I think it's going to be August, September, whenever you normally go back. If we don't go back better, if we don't go back having learned something through this time that we then implement in the brick and mortar walls of our classroom, we are doing our children, our kids, our students an incredible disservice. If we go back and it's just as it was, normal, as it was back then this time was for nothing. For nothing. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair to our students in this world that's making education as it exists either having to change or dying. And I think we need to respond to that as educators. So I hope that message kind of sits with you in a way that empowers you and helps you see the value that you have in changing with the times and bringing something even better and more effective and, dare I say, more sustainable for you. And that kind of comes back to the very beginning of this live where I talked about how my mission and this little thing that I'm doing is all about building sustainable classrooms so that teachers can stay there longer. And I think that the way that education is going to be moving, and it's always slower than everything else, but it better catch up soon because this pandemic is bringing it all out, is that we've got to make this more sustainable for the practitioners, for the experts, for the professionals that are teachers, that we need to value even more. We need to make this sustainable for them so they stay there longer and can make these effective changes that are so necessary in education. Okay, so I'm kind of on my soapbox there for a hot second, but I mean it, right? I really mean it. Okay, so that's kind of what I give you about tips for teaching online. Now let's talk about, and I'm just turning the page in that little PDF that I made you. And I'm just looking at my slides to make sure I didn't miss anything. I didn't. Okay, I'm just going to talk to camera now. Is tips for working from home. Okay. I give this to you in the PDF, so again, go there, check it out. But I did almost like a little acronym just because I try to simplify things that way. And the three kind of categories that I talk to you about are this: MTM. Mindset, time, margins. We are so unfamiliar as educators, right, as classroom teachers, as to what it looks like to work from home, especially if our kids are home, and holy crap, it's insane, right? It's totally insane. So the three ways that I think we can really optimize our work from home time and be more effective is in those three ways: our mindset, our time, and the margins. So when I say the trendy word mindset, I don't necessarily mean like meditating and like manifestation and all of those. I don't necessarily mean those kind of trendy things right now. But what the big takeaway that I want you to think about with mindset is that the varying forms of guilt that we have, mom guilt, I would say dad guilt, but that doesn't even really exist in our culture, but let's just go with it. Mom, dad guilt, right? And teacher guilt are going to run rampant in your brain. You are going to be working on the work with your students, and your child is going to need something, and you're talking to them while staring at your computer. And you're going to take a moment and be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Whew. The guilt, and I'm sure you felt it in the last couple weeks, could be overbearing. But I think we need a mindset shift there. And really, it's like an expectation shift, right? And that if you don't have your mindset and your expectations where they should be, it will get overwhelming. And so the best way to kind of fix or help this is through grace. You've got to have some grace for yourself. And that is in both roles that you hold as mom or dad and as teacher. And so that's really where you've got to have your mind every single day. And for me, I have to have a reset on that every single day. There's some days at the end of the day, and I'll say this to my husband, like, oh my gosh, I feel like I didn't even see my kids today, even though I was home with them all day long. And even though I was spending time with them by watching a movie together or playing in the playroom, I had my computer on my lap the whole time, or I was on my phone the whole time responding to emails or, on social media questions and stuff like that. And every single night is like a reset, and you've got to give yourself some grace there. Time. This one is interesting because as teachers, we never have time, right? We never have time. And now time looks totally different for us. And what in the world do we do with it? Here's the thing. When it comes to, and this is going to look different for everybody depending on what your school district is requiring of you. Some districts are saying just make sure you check your email on a daily basis. Some are saying you have to work 8 to 4 p.m. and you have to have childcare. I saw a headline that said that. I don't know how true it is, but anywho, so this might look differently for everyone. But it could very much be mostly asynchronous time for you, right? And that you're doing most of your prep work and then you have very little synchronous time with your students. So it's not like dedicated in front of a camera time. That asynchronous time, you have got to choose to either get up early or stay up late. You cannot do both. You cannot have a healthy life and do both. There have been times, and this week is one of them, where I've done both. Or where I've stayed up way too late and I sleep right up until my children get up and then I'm like all groggy, like, oh, now I need to be mom. So choose one. And how you set up your day between homeschooling, teaching and meeting with your students, all the other things, maintaining your home. We're attempting to spring clean this week and this weekend, right? All of those things. What I recommend is using what's called a block schedule. The block schedule is not my own idea. And I just show this to you because in the PDF, I kind of show you how we work ours. And that I don't really have this written down, but it's kind of in my brain as to how we shift. And in the last 2 weeks even, it's shifted again, meaning like what the block schedule kind of looks like. But by definition, it's giving you some grace there because you don't have everything planned out so in lockstep, and that you have some transition time, you have some give there. So I really encourage you to look at that PDF and how a block schedule could serve you and your family when it comes to having to homeschool your kids, having to work, having to maintain your home, all of those things. I also say choose either working early or late, because if you're anything like me, you could very much you could easily slip into working all of the time. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a workaholic because my anxiety level kind of gets to a place first that stops me just short of being a workaholic. But I could totally get there if I didn't have kids. That's certainly the case. But I love what I do, whether it was teaching in the classroom or now supporting teachers and also working with students still in different ways. But I love what I do, and I very much could do this all day long. But by the end of the week, I would be completely burnt out and not ready to return even after a refreshing weekend. So you have to know kind of where your stopping points are, or where they should or need to be, even if you are a single person at home with no kids. You've got to have the set hours of when you're going to start working and when you're going to stop, or else you're going to burn out. You need to go watch some Tiger King on Netflix. No, you don't. Please don't do that. We just finished that up last night. Oh, Lord, help us all. But yeah, you need to do stuff like that. You need to pick up a hobby, right? A hobby that I really want to do once I'm able to get a free piano off of Facebook Marketplace is learn how to play the piano. But I can't ask piano movers to come into my home right now, so that's not happening. But pick up a hobby, right? Call somebody you love and binge watch some Netflix. Go work out. And I'm sure you're doing all of those things. I'm just saying that it might behoove you to make a routine out of some of this, especially if, like I said, you're like me and you can easily slip into working around the clock. Okay, and then the last one is margins. And this one I specifically talk to parents. This one is specifically for parents and it's kind of speaking to that whole mom guilt thing. Up on my blog this week, I put it out on Tuesday, teachonamission.com/blog. You can check it out. I totally had a picture of like me from my lap where I had my computer on my lap. I was sitting outside while my boys were playing. They were totally occupied with their millions of vehicles and chalk and bubbles and all the things. And I was able to get about 45 minutes to an hour worth of pretty focused work time because they were focused on what they were doing. And so finding margins like that can really be helpful, but here's why. Because you have balanced expectations. Because you have your morning or nighttime like major chunk of work time, which you need to set up. Anything that you get done in the margins is just like a bonus. And woo, yay, I was able to get something done that I thought I would have to do tomorrow. That's awesome. But you also, and here's the beauty in having a mobile device like a phone or a laptop, is that you can easily put it down or close it during those margin times because their eyes need your eyes more than your computer does, as long as you have that early or late night work time too, right? And so, yeah, that's why it's more, that margin one is more for parents. So I hope that has been helpful for you. And I hope that you go and check out teachonamission.com /teach from home, and grab that PDF because I do think that could be beneficial if this transition time has been a little overwhelming for you. Okay, so that's what I've got. I'm still over time. Dang it, I suck at this whole time management thing in going live, but that's okay. If you guys have any questions for me about this whole teaching online, working from home, what is anything that looks like, please, don't hesitate to ask. And I just realized that on my slide, I didn't update that slide. I'm going to do that here really quickly for you guys. So tomorrow I am going live. But it's not the topic that I'm doing today. It's an interview with flipped classroom teachers, hearing from them about how the flipped classroom has benefit. So they started flipping at the beginning of this school year, like back in August, right? And so I'm going to be, and I'm here, darn it. They are going to share with us how the flipped classroom has impacted their students, their classroom as a whole, and even their daily teaching lives. So I'm super, super excited and hope that you can join us. I'll have at least two, I'm working on another, but at least two other teachers that are going to join us on the Facebook Live tomorrow. And then the last thing, if what I'm talking about here, and more specifically, if the idea of making this time that we have during this pandemic and all that we've been learning for online teaching and all of that, if making that count so that it makes you a more effective and sustainable educator when you return to school, the four walls of your classroom, if that message resonates with you, I want to provide you something else, and that is a workshop or webinar, whatever the heck you want to call it. It's online, and I'm bringing you some teaching. But it's a flipped classroom webinar with me tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's after my children go to bed, so that's why I'm doing this. That's why I chose that time. But it'll be about an hour and a half-ish, probably, give or take. And I provide you a workbook. So once you go to teachonamission.com /flipping workshop, you'll sign up. I'll email you the link to join us. We'll be joining on Google Meet so that I can kind of demonstrate what that looks like if you haven't used that yet. And FYI, I have over 125 people now that have registered for that, and Google Meet only takes up to 100. So I totally underestimated how many people would be joining us for this webinar, but I'm going to figure it out. Don't you worry. But anywho, I provide you a workbook to kind of go along with us. And then at the end, a certificate of completion so that you can turn that in to your administration just to say, hey, I did this little training thing on my own. Would love to get some CEUs or PDUs, whatever you call that, in your district. So yeah, and that's totally free. That's tomorrow at 8 p.m. And in that webinar, we're going to talk about all things flipped classroom. But I'm also going to talk to you about my online course, Flipped Classroom Formula, which I decided to open up this week. We're going to start the course on Monday, and it's got teachers in it who want to make this time count so that when we return to school in August, right? So that the status quo that was no longer is. And I mean that very much, truly. I mean that for you, in that it can be sustainable. The status quo of this like fast-paced teaching life is not sustainable for everybody. It's also about making you essential as an educator and your classroom accessible to your students. Not that I'm saying that a pandemic's going to happen again. I'm not saying that at all. But students are going to be absent again. And a flipped and therefore accessible classroom helps them access your content more. That's just it. Just more of them access more of your content. All right, so let me see if you guys have any questions. The URL to check out the class, if that's something you're interested in, is teachonamission.com/flipped classroom. All right, guys, I hope that you found this helpful. Go here. I hope that you found this helpful. If you ever have any questions, just jump back in and let me know. I would love. You can put some comments here, or you can email me at Mandy, Mandy at teachonamission.com. I actually have a few emails that I need to answer from questions from yesterday. So everybody have a great afternoon, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Oh, wait, Jess said something. Love the synchronous connection. Oh, awesome. Guys, I'm looking forward to webinar tomorrow night. Yay! So glad you'll be there. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I think it will be helpful. All right, guys, everybody have a great afternoon, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, 3 p.m. See ya.